Hi folks. Once again, the House is entertaining the matter of shrinking our legislature. Now the people in our district favor it overwhelmingly, but there are those elsewhere who staunchly oppose it. I have voted for it several times now, and I want to lay out the arguments so you can fully understand the issue. It is important to examine this subject objectively. Pennsylvania operates the largest full-time legislature in the country with 203 House members. It's the second largest legislature overall, coming in behind New Hampshire's 424-seat part-time assembly. I have visited 14 state legislatures over the last 4 years to study various systems. Let's take a look at a few of them. Our neighbor, Ohio, which is nearly equivalent in population to ours, governs with a 99-member state house. That's roughly 120,000 residents per representative. So a smaller legislature is not impossible for a state of our size. I visited that legislature and observed how it functioned. There was much less chaos and more robust debate. When constituents visit our assembly in Harrisburg, they often notice the chaos and how few people even seem to be paying attention to the speakers. We can also look at Illinois. It is the 5th largest in population, which is only slightly larger than ours. It also functions effectively with only 118 state representatives. And then there is New York, the 3rd largest in population and slightly larger than Pennsylvania in size. It operates its legislature with 150 representatives and 62 senators. Some who come from rural areas worry that a smaller legislature would hurt rural districts. To them, I would offer the example of Montana. Montana offers an excellent example of a rural-urban divide in representation. Montana is 4th largest geographically, covering more than 147,000 square miles. However, it has fewer than 1 million people in its 56 counties. 1/4 of Montana's population resides in just 4 cities. Still, that state functions effectively with 100 representatives and 50 senators. When I visited Montana's legislature, I talked both with senators and representatives from across the state. They felt that rural Montana is well represented, even with far fewer legislators. Another argument against reducing the size of our legislature comes from those who contend that Pennsylvania is such a diverse state that it warrants a much larger General Assembly. It's true, we are a diverse state, but it is interesting that when you talk to lawmakers in other states, they also make the claim that their states are uniquely diverse. Ohio is a rural state with concentrated populations in large urban areas such as Cleveland and Cincinnati. Illinois is a rural state with a large concentration in Chicago and surrounding counties. Yet both operate effectively with a smaller legislature. Now here's another argument, and you may not believe it, but it's true. Some people claim that Pennsylvania needs an even larger legislature. The bigger the better. They say it would increase the voice of the people. Well, there's only one example of a state legislature larger than ours, and when you look at it, you won't find the voice of the people magnified. It's actually reduced. You see, New Hampshire has a very large 424-member assembly, as I said earlier. The effect of that is that each legislator has a smaller voice. Consequently, more power is shifted to leadership that's needed to run such a large bureaucracy. As the power of individual legislators is reduced, it gets concentrated into fewer hands, and the people's voice is actually lost. Other people argue that a larger legislature cuts down on corruption. They say that this makes it more difficult for lobbyists to influence a bigger number of legislators. The reality is that the opposite is true. A larger assembly places the power in the hands of a few leaders, meaning lobbyists only need to influence a few leaders to get their way. I also want to address here the idea of a part-time legislature, something that I don't oppose. Texas provides some inspiration in this regard. It carries the title of our 2nd largest state in both size and population, but it has a part-time legislature. Consider that a state nearly 6 times the size of Pennsylvania and with 2.2 times the population operates with a mere 150 House members compared to our 203. And they meet every other year for 3 months and pass a 2-year budget. If a state that big can do it successfully, we might want to study how Texans pull it off. At one time many years ago, our state did indeed have a part-time legislature. While that idea has some merit, it carries with it some disadvantages. Under that system, more power rests with the governor and the bureaucracy of the administration. Our state has an active legislature that represents the people directly, and that serves as a strong counterbalance to the executive branch. One final argument opponents of reduction make. They claim that our legislature's size keeps our districts small enough so that we can personally meet each constituent. I agree, and I have knocked on nearly 40,000 doors. My wife and I routinely attend over 200 events per year in our district. But if we did reduce the size of our legislature by the numbers suggested by the proposals currently on the table, each district would only become slightly larger. It would remain a size still reachable by a representative willing to work at it. There's nothing magical about the number 203, and we know that it was arrived at arbitrarily. What we can safely say is that there is an effective number that lies somewhere between 100 and 175 for a state our size with the population that we have. We can learn from Ohio, New York, Illinois, and other states, but we don't have to be them. We can set our own standard within those guidelines. One proposal suggests 151 House members, and that is a reasonable number for our state, our size. Critics say that much money will be saved by reducing the number of lawmakers, and that is relatively true. We will likely save in the tens of millions, not hundreds of millions of dollars. But the larger argument is about effectiveness, not just cost savings. Remember, changing the size of the legislature will require a constitutional amendment. Such legislation must pass the House and Senate in 2 different sessions and then go before the people in a voter referendum, a place where you could decide. In the meantime, I will continue to support shrinking our legislature to a more reasonable size. I wanted you to know the reasons behind it. Until next time, God bless you all.